to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. Pastor Eric.
Join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please join me in the spirit of prayer? Holy Father, Father God, thank you that we can come to you. Thank you that you are the living God and that you are the God that is present here because you are always with those who believe. Father, we thank you for each of the members of this council, for our mayor, for the city staff here, for their heart to serve our community. And the scripture says that they are servants of you, and it is for the citizens' good. And so just pray that you would bless them tonight, give them clarity, give them wisdom, give them unity in making decisions in guiding this community for the good of its citizens. I just pray for just a spirit of peace amongst this meeting tonight. God, you are here and you are a God of peace, and we thank you for that. So may you bless this time, bless each person as they seek the good of this city, so that you would be glorified. We thank you that we can come to you through Jesus. In his name we pray. Amen. God bless.
Before we approve the agenda tonight, we've got a couple small, one addition and one switch in the items. Under F for recognitions, we've got recognitions that we're going to. Everyone's okay with that. And then we'd like to move item 8 down to make that item 10. So Goddard Apartments would be 10, Hawkins Lane would be 8, the laundromat would be 9. Any objections to that? All in favor of doing that, say aye. Aye. Okay. We'll consider that the approval of the minutes for the agenda. Next item is citizen comments, and before we start this process, I'd like to say a few things as it relates to why you're all here tonight. This last week, there was a consultant in the community dealing with trying to work with the school district in determining what the issues were around the bond issue. And one of the comments that person made was that from his experience being in town for a couple of days, that duplex was the dirtiest word in our community. I think that that over time there's been a little misinformation put out there, and I think that we've had several discussions with the council and the planning commission met 3 times, and we've been wrangling back and forth on this issue, so it's nothing really new. The most recent data that I have is that it looks like we have, as of August, around 332 duplex lots that have been platted that haven't been built on. And we also have been a supply of 918, depending on how you count, single-family plots. Last year, the Trails End, which was building under a 40-60 split by the previous council, came to this body and requested to increase the number of duplexes, and kind of based on the fact that the original agreement intent was the 40-60, we denied that request. There's at some point in some place, as a community, we're going to have to determine the relationship between single-family homes and rentals. And the statistics and data going back to our original comprehensive plan document. So in 2015, we had 1,440 conventional single-family detached homes and 42 duplexes. And there's a narrative under this in the plan that said The numbers that show Goddard is generally similar to many other communities, with strong preference for detached single-family dwelling units. However, if local trends remain typical of the region, there will be a growing demand for duplexes and apartments as alternatives to the high cost of individual dwelling structures. Accordingly, it is probable that proportionally more duplexes and apartments might be built in the future. With this particular strong urgency of duplexes as housing types will develop. So, just 10 years ago, the mix of our community, duplexes were not an issue. When this document was put together, a little foreshadowing statement of where we are today. The comprehensive plan document is up for renewal in 2026. And I've got a good friend of mine that this is another community that's a mayor. We grew up together. They have similar issues in their community, but in their community they're more concerned about apartments than duplexes. But the point is they have a strong comprehensive plan that outlines the restrictions on zoning, which actually acts as a way to control and direct the planning commission to handle the requests that come before them. And at this point, that comprehensive plan is out of date and really doesn't apply the appropriate direction that the community desires. My guess is if you didn't have any questions with duplexes and you were fine with the direction of this, you'd all be at home watching the ball game tonight. So I think the call and the solution to this situation is that we take a pause in what we're doing, but it's going to take all of you that have come in here tonight and participate in this process of reestablishing and setting the comprehensive plan. That will provide the direction and basically lay out how the planning commission works and how we work in following out the desires and the direction of the community. That's the way the process kind of gets set up, and that way it's not any one person making any decision, and then 10 years from now that process will be renewed and there'll be other issues that will come upon the city and other things that will have to take place and be addressed as we continue to grow. We're on track to have a population, we're somewhere between 6,500 and 7,200, depending on how you count and round. The growth is not going to stop. If we do not issue another permit and stop, Wichita has already jumped across 167th Street north of Maple. They'll keep growing. We have an obligation, I think, as a council to be sure that we allow and have a process established and keep it maintained that carries out the will and wishes of the community. And so with that in mind, that's part A of the solution. The other solution, the thing I think we need to address, is the issue around single family housing. The average age of a first-time home buyer today is 38 years of age. And I know there's changes in demographics and desires of different age groups, but the economic situation that we're in and coming out of has created a large gap between wages and costs. The price of an average home has far exceeded the ability of people to reach or to buy a single family home. And we don't have a lot of starter homes in the community. And I've advocated for this off and on, it's on my brochure when I was running for council. We can establish and be the single family community of Sedgwick County by having a strong first time home buyer program for homes under $200,000 and help people buy their first home. The hard thing for developers and builders is if it's built on smaller lots, to allow them to make it profitable and to make the cost of all the infrastructure work out. But we can provide incentives to help people get started. My first home was not my last home. When I was 24 years old, my wife and I bought a 1,200 square foot ranch on a really no slab, but on a crawl space with a single car garage on a pants, just a postage stamp lot. But that provided me the opportunity over that 6 or 7 years living in that home to build enough equity so that when we moved, we were able to buy a larger home. That's the essence of the American dream. And we can be that type of community, but it's going to take effort, and we're going to have to figure out and make some changes. There's money that we can allocate to these things. We can make we can do basically whatever we want to make this work, but it takes the agreement of the community. So I think there's a two-pronged, response to this issue for us going forward. Just one, get the comprehensive plan in line with what we want to do, and two, find a way to help first-time home buyers buy their first homes. That's the direction I would encourage everyone to go. That's what I think we need to do as a community. With that, anyone on the council have anything they want to add? Not right now. Okay. And we will open citizen comments. Just for the record, it's 3 minutes. We're going to listen. We're not going to answer questions. This is a process that's long-standing, and if you want to talk with us, I'm retired. I've got plenty of time.
Mayor and City Council.
But go ahead.
All right. As you know, if city staff receives certain emails and people request it to be read to council, then we do print them out and read it to you. So I have received one email that they were unable, I don't believe they were able to attend, so they're asking me to read it for council. So I'm going to read it verbatim. To whom it may concern, my name is Megan Kemp, I think it is, K-E-M-P-F. And I'm writing to you not only as a concerned resident, but as a mother and member of this community who deeply cares about the future of Goddard. 3 years ago, my husband and I made a decision to move our family back to Kansas from Colorado Springs, where he had been stationed during his military service. We chose Goddard intentionally for its slower pace of life, its proximity to family, its promise of strong schools, and its reputation as a safe, close-knit town to raise our children in close proximity to the city. But the Goddard we return to is changing rapidly and in many ways without the preparation needed to sustain it. It's no secret that every corner that once held open farmland is now sprouting duplexes and housing developments at a staggering pace. Growth can be a sign of prosperity. I don't want to shut the door on new families who want to make Goddard their home, but growth without strategy is not progress, it's pressure. We have not yet agreed on a bond to support our already strained school system. My children and the children of my neighbors are the ones who will feel the consequences first. In overcrowded classrooms and overworked teachers and a decline in the very school quality that once made Goddard a destination for families like mine. The increase in duplexes and high-density housing brings greater demand on every part of our city, not just the schools, but the roads and water systems to law enforcement and emergency services. There is no stopping growth in Goddard, nor should there be. I want to see this community thrive, but I also want to see it prepared. I want to see our leaders plan for smart, sustainable development that puts families first. We need a clear plan to address the existing problems before any more multifamily housing developments are approved. I am asking respectfully but firmly that the City Council pause any further approvals of new duplexes or apartment complexes until there is a comprehensive, transparent plan in place to support our current residents. Our community deserves time to regroup and strengthen the foundation that once made Goddard a truly special place to live. We moved here for the small town feel, for the schools, for the community. Please don't let unchecked development take that away from us. Sincerely, Megan Kemp, 1065 Arbor Creek Court, Goddard, Kansas, 67052. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi guys, Amanda White. Thank you for having me here tonight. 202 Stewart Drive, Goddard resident. First, I just wanted to take a minute and thank you guys. I know that this is not an easy task, and I think that there's a lot of people behind me who are waiting to talk. I love seeing everyone out here. I love seeing a packed house. I wish every council meeting looked like this. And then I pray that this council meeting and everyone who gets up reflects, our last council meeting that was a little tough and how everyone shared how they felt, but everyone was respectful, and so I'm hoping that tonight and praying tonight goes just like that. I know that there's a lot of different opinions on duplexes and housing in the community. I think growth is important. I think growth is imminent. I think it's coming regardless of how we feel about it. I agree, Wichita's going to grow into us. We've got to figure it out. I have 3 kids. I've got one who's 10. She's a 5th grader. I've got one who's 8, she's a 3rd grader, and I've got one who's 1st grade and he's 6. And my 10-year-old, she's on a 504. She has bilateral hearing aids, and so that makes it difficult for her sometimes to learn like other children. She is thriving this year in a classroom of about 20 kids, but the last couple years they were tough. 23, 24, 25 kids. I just wanted to touch on a few key points that a few years ago when duplexes were originally kind of approved and we were looking at what the future looked like, we didn't have open boundaries. The state of Kansas has since changed that. We've also taken in more of Wichita. We've got kids all the way out, I believe, to 119. We're already struggling within these schools. And I think in the past the schools have said, keep them coming, we're good to go. I think the school was counting on that bond. And without that bond, our classrooms are already going to be built with the several hundred duplexes that are still waiting to be built that are already approved. And so I just want to make sure that we're talking about that, the open boundaries, and the changes that have been made within the state from when these duplexes were originally approved. Also, our infrastructure is already struggling. I choose to try to not comment on Goddard Facebook posts, but it's fair to say that there's been a lot of complaints that people are getting slower water. I personally, in my house anymore, I can't run my dishwasher and my washer at the same time. I used to be able to do that. And I know that you guys have put in a really great plan to fix that, and that's upcoming, but I would hate to see us have to move at a quicker pace with finances that weren't prepared for because we built too quickly and our infrastructure couldn't keep up. Also, and this is a really big one for me, safe sidewalks. We're talking about putting in hundreds of more duplexes with hundreds of more cars, and our children already can't get safely to and from school. And that is massive. I've got a 10-year-old who wants to walk to school, but I live off 23rd. She can't safely do that right now. Also, at our last council meeting that we had a lot of people come in and speak, I heard from the senior citizens that there's not really good options for them right now. We're not building, kind of like you said, Mayor Lieb, about single-family homes, flat homes. So I just wanted to touch on that. Growth is imminent. How we grow is still up for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Evening, folks. Jeffrey Jones, 1069 Arbor Creek Court, neighbor to Morgan. I'm not opposed to duplexes. I'm not opposed to growth. I think we need to put a pause. Working in the water committee, we learned water is not as abundant as we thought. You know that we're struggling on that. We're struggling in schools and whatnot. I'm not saying no more growth. I'm just saying, can we just pause for a minute to get the stuff that we've got going up and going? The second thing I have a concern over is planning commission. Maybe we should have presented the water information to planning, because in my estimation, this first agenda item tonight should never have come to you guys. Planning commission should have shut it down. I said, you know what, Goddard is full right now. We don't have the space, we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have X, Y, and Z to approve another 300 duplex homes, another 100 plus houses. We just don't, not yet. Not saying never, just saying not yet. So my question is, and I'm hoping that comprehensive plan next year will help straighten some of that out, but at what point does planning commission and city council talk to each other and council say, look, you're going to send this stuff to us and we're going to shut it down because we can't do it? Is planning commission just approving stuff because that's what they do? Or do they actually look at planning for our community and saying, hey, we can't sustain this right now. This isn't viable, and we're gonna unapprove, disapprove, not approve, whatever the word is. That's my concern. This should never come up tonight. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Caitlin Eisenhower. I'm a resident of St. Andrews. I've been in the Goddard community my entire life. I'm here tonight not out of opposition of growth, but out of a deep concern for the direction our community is headed. Really appreciate you starting the meeting off the way you did. unconventional but necessary. We're being asked to support the construction of more duplexes, more density, more people, more strain, but without the infrastructure to sustain it. To me, that's not smart growth. This has turned into reckless expansion. And this is kind of the reckless leadership many of you sitting in the council seats voted against. So I'm hoping to see your courage. Starting with our schools, our classrooms are too full, our teachers are stretched too thin, and we are asking too much of them. They are doing their best to manage with limited supplies and resources. More housing means increased enrollment pressures without any clear plan for how to accommodate additional students. And I'm hoping the district has a representative here tonight to oppose these duplexes. And considering the community just voted down the bond issue, this decision should be a no-brainer. Then there's public safety. More housing means that we are straining our resources and putting our law enforcement and emergency services in unreasonable situations. Stretching their roles thin only puts them and our community at risk. It's unfair to them and it's unsafe for us. And finally, our local businesses in commercial areas. We need to strengthen our economic foundation before we expand our housing footprint. What are we doing to bring more businesses to Goddard? Or are we only enticing developers? Can we entice developers in a different way? Growth should make a community stronger, not strain it. I'm asking the City Council to consider the human impact, the teachers who are already struggling, the officers, emergency services who are selflessly serving our community every day. They deserve better. Let's invest in building the infrastructure needed to support the families who are already here. I'm not against growth, but growth must be responsible, strategic, and supported by the right infrastructure. And I urge City Council to pause this decision until we have a clear path to expand our schools, public safety resources, and business capacity. Thank you for your time and your service. This is hard work. And for listening to the voices of the community that you represent.
Will you please sign in, please? Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you.
My name's Dan Buczynski. I live over at St. Andrews also. When they talk about the infrastructure, some people don't realize how real it is, a problem. Years ago, I helped build the wastewater treatment facility here. It is rated for 1.2 million gallons per day. There was some information that came out that we were approved for 2.4 million gallons of water a day to come through the wastewater. That's not exactly right. They can only clean 1.2 million. They're at 800,000 gallons a day right now. During the summer, they hit 1.3 million, which that meant 100,000 gallons had to go raw sewage to the pit. Anytime you exceed 1.2 million in a day, it goes out to the pit. They said, well, we're rated for 2.4 million, but they can't pump it because they've only got 3 pumps. It takes 4. That means they have to add another starter, another pump system, and all just to pump the 2.4 million gallons. So they're not even capable of doing what they're past. So if people are saying, the infrastructure, they're right. The water won't handle it. And people at Italia, whatever, the people across the road that had wells for their only water lost their water. They've been in a lawsuit because they're pumping so much water over there. All the people south lost their water. They had to have water piped in or pumped in. So that's all I have to say about it. It's just I don't feel that this is really a good step. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dan.
evening. Not a good public speaker, so bear with me. My name is Richard Aiken. I'm a resident of St. Andrew. I appreciate the opportunity to speak about the new duplex single-family residential property tonight. At the Planning Commission last week, Garver stated it is their intention to be good neighbors by building the single-family homes adjacent to Arbor Creek subdivision. The remainder of the development consisting of 60% duplexes, 40% residential properties. So I appreciate their interest in contributing to the community, but I'd like to raise a few concerns. First, it was mentioned the higher density properties are the only ones currently selling. Is this a trend influenced by the significant property taxes over the past few years? For mine, it's doubled since 2020. Is affordability actually driving the demand for higher density housing? If so, what kind of long-term impacts are we looking at? So, the proposed site is currently located in Central County and not within the city of Goddard. Has there been any discussion or drafting of an ordinance to annex the land into the city for the tax law benefits? If so, I'd appreciate the council to look at some clarity and discuss that with the residents. It's a stark difference in tax rate. City of Goddard's at 37.267 mils versus the Illinois Township's only 6.8 mils. So this discrepancy could have significant implications for both current and future residents. Infrastructure is a key concern. We've heard that a bunch tonight. So during the Planning Commission, they said there was no foreseeable infrastructure issues through 2035. Curious about the data supporting that. Considering the rapid growth we've experienced. Since 2020, we've increased by about 19% on our population growth. In 2000, we only had 1,492 residents in the city of Goddard. Today, it's estimated just shy of 6,100 residents. How do we keep up with that based on the same infrastructure we had 15 years ago? Growth is a positive sign. It shows that people want to be a part of our community, and I welcome any development that adds value to enhance our quality of life. However, I urge council to carefully evaluate how higher density housing might affect existing property values, traffic flow, environmental sustainability, and though not the direct issue of a city issue, the strain on our school district. I think we can all agree we're already feeling pressure in the school systems. Adding another 300 families to that burden is not a good idea. There are developments in the community, just highlighting it since it's close to my home, but the 55 plus development creates an interesting niche that could benefit our city. It allows those of us who are nearing retirement to remain local, and continue connected to their families. So, since I'm being buzzed out, I'll just pose two questions. How do the developers want to uphold the commitment to being good neighbors once the development is complete? And lastly, if there is a planning committee or development, I'm happy to step up and be on there.
Thank you, Richard. You did very well.
Thank you, Richard.
Hi, my name is Lauren. I'm a neighbor at the Arbor Creek community. So my family was recently displaced out of our home after a fire, and during this time we've had to live in two different duplexes in our time. So we got to actually experience what these duplexes are like. So this experience has opened our eyes to some major concerns about the rapid growth and the quality of the duplex housing in our city. First, there seems to be no clear long-term plan or vision guiding these developments. The craftsmanship and quality are poor. I could hear my neighbors' conversations completely clearly. I could hear their conversations by phone, and I could even hear marital intimate moments from our neighbors that we were with. So I want to make it clear, these walls are so thin, and that poses a risk to our safety. So the conversations that I was having in one of these duplexes could be heard by our neighbors. That poses a risk for passwords, conversations with my husband, with my kids, safety concerns. These are not family homes. That does not provide the safety or privacy we need. In another unit, a neighbor was doing woodworking in his garage, and sawdust came in 2 hours. Like, what? Well, we have pictures of all of this. So this is the type of quality and the craftsmanship of these duplexes that you guys are allowing into our city. These duplexes are marketed as temporary housing, but at the rate they're being built, they're quickly becoming the long-term reality for many families. They're not designed with people in mind, only profit. For example, one 4-bedroom unit had just 2 small kitchen drawers for an entire family. Not the normal sized kitchen drawers families have, 2 little ones. And that makes you think, how are these people supposed to live in these homes? How are they supposed to feed a family that fits into a 4-bedroom unit? And the flooring and baseboards are completely uneven. There is no, and they're just really poor quality. Is that I want to continue to focus on that. Our city deserves better. Goddard family deserves homes that are thoughtfully planned, built with care, and made to last. And I'm asking the city council to slow down, set clear standards, and ensure future developments actually meet the needs of the people who will live in them. So thank you.
Thank you.
When will you get back into your home?
We're hoping this Friday.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
The neighbors know that, I guess, already.
Hi, my name is Zach Mays. I'm 1201 North Lake Edge in St. Andrews. I just wanted to echo essentially a lot of the comments that have already been made, but I just wanted to make sure that you had another citizen coming forth to say them. Like many have said, I'm not against development. I'm not against growth. I'm for appropriate and reasonable growth, right? And given the city's current approved duplex capacity, I don't believe that adding another one is necessarily appropriate or responsible, given all the issues that we've already talked to over the last comments. I would say in looking at 2026 budget book, which by the way was an excellent book that was very, very well done. They talk about the growth between 2010 and 2023. That was 14% growth. That's 13 years, 14% growth, 5% every year. And in that book they talked about, and I've heard it bannered about we would go from 2030 of a population of 12,000. So between 2023 and 2030, that's 110% growth over half the time of the previous 13 years. That doesn't seem appropriate and reasonable to do. The community can't absorb that in that amount of time. And what I don't understand is the way it's been talked about, the growth and the expansion. It seems like it's an asteroid that's coming towards us that we have nothing, we can't do anything about, and there's no Bruce Willis and a band of misfits and NASA scientists that can solve this. But I think the answer is the same answer that I'm going to give my kids next Friday after they've had enough candy, right? They're going to want a little bit more. I'm just going to say no, right? We don't have to get bigger by 110%. We can say, no, we can pause things, we can expand that. We shouldn't need to grow. We shouldn't need now to be paid for by tomorrow, right? So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amanda Levine. I live on Highview Drive here in Goddard. So I live on some acreage. I'm also a real estate agent, have been full-time for 24 years. So I come at it with a kind of a perspective of, we hear a lot in the real estate community, ugh, Goddard. They're allowing tract homes, they're allowing duplexes, ugh, yuck. And other communities not to, compare, but other communities are not as much, or they have larger spaces, or they have some also bigger developments that overcast the smaller developments. So I think it was really smart what you said about what do we want ourselves to look like in the future, and we should pause and think about that. Because yes, it's my understanding that some of these companies will come in and they'll pay more for a huge acreage because they're going to build duplexes. Quality over quantity, like she said before, and that is 100%. When I'm showing a duplex, all I have to do, or some of these other small tract homes, all I have to do is go put my phone in one side and walk over to the other, and we leave right away. Also, all I have to do is go to some of these smaller tract homes where they don't even include gutters on their base prices. And I say, look at the base price, make sure there's doors and windows included in that. And it's a joke, but not really. So, and they're making these developers, because I also do some subdivisions in Bel Air and sell homes, new construction. They're making more on these duplexes than if you sold the property to somebody who was building $400,000 to $500,000 homes or $300,000 to $500,000 homes. So of course they're willing to pay more for the land, but we get bad quality, which just inherently brings people. Some home buyers is smart. We have plenty in Goddard. We really do. Prices have increased, yes, but that's everywhere. So small houses on small lots is not the answer. And I'll tell you, a lot of times, because I live on acreage, I have people looking for acreage. I have people looking for higher, and we can't find it. So I think Goddard needs to make a plan to kind of be more diverse in all areas. And I would highly recommend, because I started my career in Colorado Springs, and there was a section of Colorado Springs that did this, duplexes, Pulte homes that were right beside each other on small lots. And after 8 years, those houses, a lot of them went to foreclosure, and a lot of those houses ended up being just trash, and nobody wanted to live there. The rents went low, people from out of state bought them. So that's a fear that we have on some of these duplexes that are low quality, is they won't increase in value. And then who's going to live there? What are they going to look like, and what are they going to do to the community? So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
Next batter.
Yeah. Kevin Beatson, 405 Richards. First of all, you guys had a great fall festival.
Thank you.
I'll just kind of do the same, echo what everybody said. Could probably just ask for a raise of hands and we could have made it quicker. A couple other things I do have. If we knew more about what's going on, we know how many duplexes, we know how many you want to build. There's nothing ever says this many have rented out, or how quick the turnover is. Are they coming in for 3 months and leaving? They've had it? That does none of us any good, right? I mean, I know it's not a conversation, you can only listen. So that's something that could help all of us, is if you put, how are we doing? We don't know how we're doing. You do, or I hope you do, but we'd like to know that kind of information. In a newsletter, anything, on how the city's doing. I know everybody was all excited when the coffee shops came in, and then, was it last month, we said goodbye to one. So, are we gonna build more, or are we gonna stop and let the people who bought them and own them make a profit and not lose and walk out too? To me, that's simple things to think about. My last thing is, for the life of me, I don't know why we have road signs in the park for corner ahead. You should have one sign that says you shouldn't be riding a bicycle or an electric scooter over the pace of a fast walk. You got, I don't know if you walk the park, you got full-size road signs. Curve ahead. And that curve ahead is right where all the parents park and walk the 2-year-olds to the water park. So if somebody's going so fast they need a road sign, that kid don't stand a chance. And it'll happen, it just hasn't yet. So I don't know what the deal is with road signs and parks, but you better come up with something, because you're just telling all the kids with the go-karts and Electric bikes, have at it, you know where the curves are, swing wide, cut in quick, you can pass your buddy. But something you really need to think about before we're just talking about it and more happens. That's about it. So, I appreciate you guys. The road signs really did surprise me the first walk I took. I knew there was a corner.
Thank you, Kevin.
Good evening. Linda Giesman, 201 North Pine. And I was at the planning commission meeting, and after the meeting, I was privy to a conversation. I should say I was present at a conversation of one of the commissioners. And they were asked point blank, when you make the decision to approve, do you take into consideration the community, the city council, the staff, their plan for this community? No. That's their job to decide if it fits in their plan. We go by the law. So I know in one of your council meetings this year that you had decided to, instead of the 60-40, that you were going to go with a little different plan proceeding or going forward. But unless that's law, unless you make it an ordinance, they're not going to pay attention to it. It's 60-40, and that's what they'll pass. I too believe in pausing, and let me tell you why I believe in pausing. I'm a firm believer in the book called the Bible. Moses led the children of Israel out of Egypt to the Jordan River, where he died. The mantle was placed in Joshua's hands, and the first instruction Joshua was given was, be bold, be courageous, but don't be too aggressive taking the land, because if you do, it's going to get devoured. Now what does that mean to Goddard? It means we cannot support aggression, aggressive building. I too am for building. I remember when we first moved to Goddard, it was funny because our neighbor, her husband, who had passed already, was the principal of the one school in Goddard when he was principal. And when they built CDS, she's going, we don't need those many schools. We just don't need that many. I know we're growing, but we don't need that many. And I'm going, we gotta put the kids somewhere. Yeah, so, you know, even back then, and that's been over 30-some years ago, that has been spoken, you know. Some have said, we don't need to grow like this. Well, look what we are. You know, Goddard has a good name, and that draws people. But you can't be too aggressive, or you may just crumble the whole thing. So, the last thing I want to say is I want you to know, council, I want the staff to know that I am praying that you seek God's wisdom and that He gives you, as one person has told me, witty ideas how to keep Goddard from being engulfed by Wichita and not being too aggressive, that this is the only way we know to do it. He can give you other ideas how to do it.
Thank you.
I just hope she's insinuating that I'm Moses and I'm not going to be here next week. I'm just joking. Mr. Dugan.
My name is Dwayne Dugan, or Mr. Mayor and Goddard City Council.
My name is Dwayne Dugan, and I represent my family that owns property in the city of Goddard, most notably the Goddard Galleria. Concerning the request to approve 60% duplexes on the acreage at the northwest corner of 31st Street South and 183rd Street West, I ask that you approve the request, as your planning commission has already approved 5-1. As the developer and real estate agent for the retail around the Walmart, we need more residents. The restaurants and retail will only come when they have the right demographics. In other words, they want it to be a sure thing, and that takes lots of residents and more density of people in the area. As for living in a duplex, I know many people, young and old, who choose to live in duplexes. My wife and I lived in a duplex for 3 years after we were first married 27 years ago. I had older siblings who lived in those same duplexes years before me. Those same duplexes are still there and are in good condition 45 years later after they were built. And the area is still nice, it's safe, and in fact my kids go to the school adjacent to them. Please do not take lightly that you have a developer willing to invest so much into Goddard and the community. They don't come along every day, and so don't think just anyone can or will develop this land, which would add many homes and residents to the city of Goddard. Please vote yes. Please vote for 60% so that the development will happen. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dugan.
My name is Blake Brown. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight. Resident of Goddard, grew up in Goddard, K through 12. I have 6 kids that all go to Goddard. Same thing with my wife, Goddard resident forever. Obviously, infrastructure is huge, all that thing. Like I said, everybody else has said, I'm echoing what they said. Now, what some other people said, I'm in the building industry. I supply a ton of all these guys' homes. I'm kind of incriminating myself by standing up there tonight. What materials they put into these duplexes is not worth it. Like what they've said, when you go stand in that house and you can hear a mouse fart next door, you really want to live there. The big thing is, 10 years down the road, who's going to want to live in those houses? Because these investors that are buying these things, they're making 100% profit. Think about that. These guys are just seeing us as a paycheck. So, big thing for me is, what's my property value going to be in 10 years? I live in St. Andrews. We built our house 6 years ago. Like I said, I have 6 kids. We love Goddard. That's why we're here. We want our kids to go to our schools, where we grew up, where we graduated from. But how appealing is that going to be when you have 900 duplexes that nobody wants to live in? We're talking about growth and everything like that. Is the growth right now going to be smart 10 years down the road when nobody wants to live in Goddard? That's my thoughts.
Thank you, Matt.
Good evening. My name is Keaton Michael Fish, and I live at 12033 West Grant Court, which, as you all know, is not in the city limits, but we are still in the district. First, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to say thank you for speaking up at the Planning Commission meeting. It is a blessing to have a mayor who chooses to still show up and speak. I think it speaks volumes about your character, that you continue to show up to those meetings. So thank you so much for being there. Over the almost 3 years that I had the privilege of sitting on that side, I've been through a lot of these meetings with a lot of you, and I understand they can be tense. But it is a blessing to have a community who shows up like this. And one thing I've heard tonight that I didn't expect is that most of the people are saying we're not against growth. Over that same time that I got to sit alongside you all, I feel like we had this conversation a lot of, we need a plan. We also had a conversation of, we need some variation. We looked at condos, at single-family homes, at other options. But for some reason, it feels like the conversation continues to just be duplex or single-family. So I would encourage you to maybe spark up those conversations again. And then, as you said, Mr. Mayor, the new comprehensive plan is quickly approaching. I think now would be a good time to pause and let's get to that plan, because it feels like our planning commission needs some more guidance. And so I think this would be a great opportunity to just wait, get through that comprehensive plan, see where we truly want to be in a few years, and then go from there. Two more things. The videos that you have been making with Craig are incredible. Thank you so much for doing that. Our community just wants communication. That's what they've said for years. So seeing steps towards that has been great. I think it is a blessing to be desired. Like Mr. Dugan said, to have developers who want to develop in your community is a blessing. That being said, development is good, but variation is better, and planning ahead is best. So I would just encourage you all, let's take a deep breath and plan for a future that Goddard deserves. So thank you. It's good to see you guys again.
Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marilyn Zokerman, and I live at 402 Richard Road. And I wasn't planning on saying anything either, but I can't sit still either. I've lived here my whole life, way longer than any of you. Well, maybe not one. But I think for me, the duplex issue, I agree, we want growth. What kind of growth? You've very nicely informed us. Lots of great ideas. I'd like to serve on that, whatever commission, whoever it is too. I feel like the duplex thing is a greed-driven business. I feel like there are certain people who make a lot of money when these things go that way. And we've seen it happen. I personally know someone who said they heard their neighbor pass gas, so that's not a joke. I know a man who works from home while his house in Arbor Creek is being built. And through his duplex walls, he can hear the neighbor kids playing. He can't even focus on his work in his office because they are paper thin. But I just think this duplex thing is driven by greed, that people make a lot of money off of it. And I think this isn't the Goddard that I grew up in. You guys are supposed to care the most about us, which I think you do, but I think you need to listen to us. Enough is enough. I'm like you. I think we sit down and we figure out what we want to do to make this town grow, to attract business, do whatever it is. I just don't think this is the answer, because I know people that have lived in them and moved right out and said it's awful. Paper thin, they're built poorly. Like he said, the stuff they're putting in them is probably the rejects because they throw it over there because nobody cares. We care. I care. This is my town, and I want you guys to take good care of it. Well, it's not all just mine, but my grandparents built the house in 1909 here, and my grandpa had the hardware store on Main Street. It was the largest hardware store west of the Mississippi in the early 1900s. That's how long my family's been there. So take good care of me because I'm getting old.
And she just retired.
Yes, I did retire.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Yes. Congratulations.
My name is Jeanette Johnston, and I actually live in Marilyn's family's house.
Oh, yeah.
Built in 1909, and I can tell you, the duplexes that are built now are not built like my home. I had the opportunity to live into a duplex with my husband before we had kids. And they were very poor. The ones we lived in were very poorly built. It was a stepping stone for us as we built our family, and we decided we moved to Goddard for the school. And now we're here. We have a lovely home, which will be here hopefully long after my family is gone. But that's not, I don't think that's the case with the duplexes. They build them quickly, and then in 10 years when they're run down and no one wants to rent them, where are we? Who wants to live in them? What kind of people will live in them? What will that do to our property values? So there's things that I think about at times. Another big issue for me is our infrastructure. I know people have said time and time again, I'm just going to beat a dead horse, but growth is great, but we need to grow smart, not grow fast. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jenna.
Hello, Council. I'm Amanda Treadwell, 410 Richards Road, also with Keller Williams Signature Partners as a realtor. First, I just want to say, you see it all the time on What's Up Goddard about being Goddard proud and being able to encourage our community to come together. And I just want to say, I'm totally Goddard proud. You guys are awesome for showing up and speaking. And a lot of the points that has already been brought up were things that I was going to say, so I'm not even going to go over that again. But I am very, very proud of our community right now for coming and showing up tonight and being very respectful in their comments and addressing the council. So a couple things that I'm going to talk about is just to share a little bit of the data that I shared with Planning Commission from the real estate perspective. I had the opportunity to speak with a lot of the agents that are representing the duplexes and selling them. And even the particular builders as well, and like Bridger Maple and Trails Inn and such as that. And what I'm being told firsthand from them is the duplexes are not selling well, so they're having to rent them out or sell them to investors. So that's telling us that our rental market and our rental percentage is going to increase far faster than what we anticipate based upon our current market. So based upon that, they're also seeing that their prices are dropping. So an average to $20,000 to $25,000, which is why they're converting them to rentals, because they're not selling very fast. So right now there's an oversaturation of supply and demand of the duplexes versus what the need is in our community right now for those units. So you can have a problem when you have too much at one time of the duplexes, and that's only with approximately 114 that I've counted that have been online. So that's another 700 and some that we don't even know when will come online. So if you have another 100 that come out at the same time, then that's an even bigger problem than what they're even experiencing now. So I would say, we need to really support with what we've already approved and make sure we stay on track and up to date with the progress of those. Investor ownership is dominating the new duplex developments. Many builders confirm that most sales are going to investors and not to local homeowners. My concern is if we continue to increase with adding more duplexes, that the developers will get overextended. So if they have a whole bunch of supply and they're not moving and they have those holding expenses, my fear is they're going to walk away from these projects, which at that point puts us at risk as a city to carry that debt and burden and have to be responsible for those specials, because their line of credit is not anywhere near what the cost of those specials are. So even if we have to pull on that line of credit, if they walk away from those, we're still stuck with a very big chunk of money. And I was told something similar happened in Bel Air a long time ago that took them 20 years to recover from that. So that might be something to look into too, and that's worst case scenario if we have too much at one time and we're not growing responsibly. So what I would say is with the density question that was brought up, is when I've talked to some of these restaurants and things like that, or just talked to the city, nobody can really tell me the specific number. What's that magic number? If you have this much density, this many people will bring our restaurant. Chick-fil-A is about 50,000. We're nowhere near that. So I think we need to establish what those numbers look like to make sure that our density is growing to what our goal is. and just track everything, track how many duplexes, occupancy, how many are rented, how many are owned. So we always know at all times where we stand, and then that can tell us whether we're ready to add more or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah.
Hi, good evening. Corey Durr, 2301 East Summerwood. I don't mean to change the subject completely, but I did want to get on the record and just make mention of the safe routes to school walk audits that I see coming this week, which unfortunately I won't be able to attend. But I did want to bring up just one concern I had that I wanted to be on the record for, and hopefully take that into account with some of the other feedback from the community. Is there's been multiple times I've parked along Main Street here since we've finished off some of this other construction down here, and I've needed to walk across the street, and I've noticed that most people don't look for pedestrians while traveling north and south on Main Street. So I do think it would be beneficial. I've only seen crosswalks at Linear Park and down by 23rd, that maybe we look at putting a crosswalk going east and west somewhere in the downtown area of Main Street. So just wanted to bring that up. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Corey.
Fine. Hi, I didn't plan on speaking either. My name is Mary Blasey Westbrook. I live at 1940 South 167th West, which right across the street from us is where they are building all of those duplexes and all of those homes. I have animals. I need my well. I am totally concerned about what happens with the well situation. It dried up wherever you guys were talking about. It dried up at Lake Waltana. I would be devastated. My neighbors all have animals. You know, what's going to happen? And that is very important to me. Also to Dwayne. I know where a lot of his family lives. There are not duplexes by his houses. So, and the houses, the duplex that he lived in before was built better than what they are building now. So that's my concern primarily is the well situation.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Last chance.
I'm kind of feeble and it's hard for me to stand up. But I've only lived here for 17 months. And I moved to Goddard from a ranch in Oklahoma. And I thought I would have a small town atmosphere here compared to living in Wichita. I've talked to 7 neighbors recently. 5 of them, because of all the duplexes and the problems instigated by those duplexes to the schools, 5 of those 7 are planning on moving within the next year and a half to 2 years. And I'm planning on getting the hell out of here if you build any more duplexes. Thank God I have that benefit. But you need to put a pause on this and think this through, because our infrastructure kind of sucks right now. And we've got to work on what we've got and improve what we've got. I've got some really fine neighbors, and I'd like to keep those neighbors, and I'd like to keep them safe and happy in this community. I don't want to see everybody loading trucks up to move up and down my street. I've seen enough of it recently. And I think it's really sad. Let's get Goddard back to some basics and some good sound principles that we can build wisely. Keep our schools sound, keep our streets safe, and take care of the traffic problems we've got right now. Thank you.
Ma'am, what is your name and address?
Deborah Meyer. I live at 2300 East Spring Hill Drive.
Thank you.
Okay, last chance.
Would I be able to say one thing, real quick?
Just as fast as you can.
Just as quick as I can? Okay. I would like to see some good building inspectors to go out there and look at those houses that are up now. Look at those duplexes, stand in one room, in another part, and talk, and see how much you can see in here. Tap on the wall, listen to how hollow those walls are. Look how those walls are bowed, and look how the trim is wrong. Not enough cabinets for people to even live there. That's all.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and close citizen comments and we'll move on with the agenda. At this time, I'd like to give council members an opportunity to clear any conflicts or communication that they have had that might influence their ability to consider tonight's agenda item partially. Item 10 for Brent Goddard Apartments. And I will mention that I had lunch today with Craig and the developer in question with the duplexes in order to visit with them and share my views on that. And just for the record, I did buy my own lunch. We'll move along. Appointments and proclamations. City Administrator Craig Cressett, would you please come forward?
Honorable Mayor and City Council, Craig Cressett, City Administrator. A bit of a surprise addition here to the agenda. I want to take just a couple of seconds to share something forward with the council and maybe the broader community. Some may already know this, some maybe not, but for the 2025 community event season, the City of Goddard became the home base for all of our community events. Previous to that, those were led by the Goddard Chamber of Commerce, and there were other ways of doing the events even before that. To my knowledge, this was the first year where we took the lead in organizing those events, and to do that, we had to hire a full-time staff person. And we have one event to go this year, but I want to recognize our Community Engagement Director, Danny Muting, who with her leadership, the leadership of the events committee, the citizen volunteers, put on an amazing fall festival event. With that, I want to give Danny a round of applause and
You want to give a speech or anything you want to say? I've had hundreds of comments, very positive. Thank you for all your hard work and the whole committee. I mean, everybody pulls together, great things can happen.
I don't think we're allowed to do this, but it's her birthday. Can we sing happy birthday? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Danny. Happy birthday to you.
And it really wasn't just me. It took the staff of all of the City of Goddard to get this off the ground. It definitely took a lot of community members, and it took a bunch of volunteers throughout the community. So don't just point at me. This is just one piece of the puzzle, okay? Thank you so much.
Only in America can you go from a hotly contested duplex debate to saying gotta love America. Gotta love it. Okay, moving on, consent agenda. I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda for this evening.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion, a second from Kristen and Naomi. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna check in. I think we have Aubrey Collins on the phone. That was an aye. That was an aye, okay. You're getting really quiet over there. Just want to make sure people know you're here. Okay, on the new business. Item 1I.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, this is item I1. John Bucknell, rezoning case number zone 25-4. Feel free to interrupt me if you guys have any questions. So, Garber Incorporated submitted a rezone application for land located on the northwest corner of 183rd and 31st, known colloquially as the John Bucknell development. The developer would like to rezone to an R2 two-family residential with intent to build single-family and two-family houses. During the August 27th joint workshop, City Council and Planning Commission discussed the potential ratio, single-family, two-family for this development with no clear consensus from the whole group. The developer, in listening to this discussion, believed that the Planning Commission was more inclined to 60% duplex and 40% single-family. In trying to accommodate this request while spreading the cost of specials and still making the development cost-effective, the developer reduced the original request of 76% to 60%, which is being proposed today. If the Planning Commission and City Council approve the development, City staff will require the developer to submit a restricted covenant, which there's a draft, the one attached in the exhibit. That would be recorded with the Register of Deeds, limiting the development to the agreed upon ratio as well as requiring a neighborhood park, 4 different facade types, and a sidewalk along primary roads on one side. On October 14th, the Planning Commission did approve the rezoning 5-1. City Council, having received the following report as outlined above, as well as conveyed by the Community Development Director, may choose the following actions listed below. You can adopt such recommendation by effectuating ordinance, override the Commission's recommendation by a 2/3 majority, which is 4 out of 5 of the membership of the City Council, or return such recommendation to the Planning Commission with a statement specifying the basis for the governing body's failure to approve or disapprove. This is the proposed layout, with the red being single family, with a proposed neighborhood park over here, and then the rest being the duplexes in the development. There's been a lot of questions, economic questions, concerns about infrastructure, all that, and so the city staff, obviously, we're very attuned to all these questions and concerns. There was questions about property values, and a lot of people, this is a complex situation, but property values are not dictated by a neighborhood that's adjoining you. Your property value is predicated on, one, the value of your house in relation to other properties of a similar type and quality within your neighborhood. And so this development and other subsequent developments that are near your neighborhood has no bearing on your appraised value by the county. Zero of impact on your appraised value. So that's just something that's come up a lot. So I just want to make that clear that in speaking with the county many times over the last 7 years, at no point is a proximity to a duplex an indicator of the appraised value of your property. Another thing when it comes to economics, and so we'll kind of look at it, we look at what's called a cost-benefit analysis. We do this quite frequently now, and we like to share this information, and if anybody has questions, they're welcome to ask me about it. So like, why are duplexes being so prevalent, and why did Planning Commission approve it? Why has City Council approved it in the past? What is the big deal behind it? And a lot of it has to do with existing infrastructure. So as time goes on, things depreciate, they break down, they fall apart, obviously. And not only that, but to replace those things, there's such a thing as inflation, and the cost of those maintenance tends to increase. And so when you look up averages of city infrastructure for sewer, for water, for storm, for roads, over time the cost to maintain that infrastructure goes up. And so the city, when we've approved other developments in the past, like even single-family developments like Spring Hill, Season, St. Andrews, etc., the cost of maintaining those over the life of the development has typically exceeded the amount of cash flow that we get from those developments to maintain them. And so oftentimes the city has generally, in terms of economics, been in favor of more duplexes because they actually help offset the long-term maintenance of these developments. And so when you look at it over time, for example, the revenue that we would collect from this particular development for single family and the revenue we would collect for duplexes, same development, when we compare that to the maintenance general cost, perceived maintenance cost of this development compared to the cash flow, it's a net positive, which means that not only would we be able to sustain this particular development over a 35-year period, but we're also able to capture additional revenue that we can use to maintain infrastructure in other developments that perhaps can't cash flow. And so this is something that comes up a lot when we look at review of long-term infrastructure costs, taking into account quality of specific services as pertains to long-term growth and efficacy of the city. This is something that we consistently look at. And so when a big factor of it as well, that's something to be considered, is not only just that it's not a dollar for dollar, but also there's operating costs. There's a cost to actually have somebody manage the wastewater treatment plant. It costs to have police officers driving around. And so after you actually collect $1 from a development, let's just say $1, then by the time you've actually paid operating costs and then you have whatever's left over, usually it's about 25% for maintenance, then you're usually net negative on specific developments, and that's where the duplexes actually help us offset that net negative. So another thing, this is a big key factor, obviously, but everyone's aware of the mortgage rates, but this is Arbor Creek, for example. So this is 2019, 2020, 2021 years over time. So permits per month, as we track them, are in direct correlation, as a negative correlation, I should say, and a positive correlation when it comes to lower rates. But as the rates drop, 30-year mortgage rate drops, permits begin to increase for single-family detached. And then when the rates begin to increase, then the permits begin to drop again. And so this correlation here, this break, this is the big one. So right here, this break happens as mortgage rates tend to increase, and the single-family, I should say, permits begin to drop because of that cost. Because the cost of the infrastructure, not only that, the cost of actually building the house is greater, and on top of that, it's compounded by a 30-year, a 6.8% over time. So then less and less single-family detached houses are being built as mortgage rates increase. And so tracking that, and this is a lot, so feel free to, like I said, ask me any questions, but tracking that in Goddard, we see in 2019 we had single families blue and two families red. We're seeing that as the rates were lower in 2019, we had more single family and the duplexes were relative compared. And then we had this increase, and then this decline as rates begin to increase. The single family trajectory started to drop, and the two family trajectory beginning to increase because of that cost of buying, that hurdle of buying a single family detached house. And so the amount of building permits we see begin to drop in relation to that. And so this trend line, if rates tend to stay relatively high, will continue to increase this way, where you'll have two family building permits being issued more, or requesting to be issued more in relation to the developments that are being approved. This is a big thing to consider in terms of cash flow, because the city is reliant on new developments to help mitigate property taxes moving forward. Because as we say, maintenance doesn't get cheaper. And so existing infrastructure has to be maintained, as we heard from the citizens. And so that cost has to be offset in a couple of different ways. Either you collect more from the permits and the developments that are being approved, or you increase property taxes on existing residents to offset that maintenance cost. And so this is this hurdle that staff and council and planning commission and everybody in the crowd is feeling, is how do you wrestle with this concept of maintaining existing infrastructure, improving the quality of life for everybody, while at the same time not increasing property taxes, but also approving developments to offset that cash flow. And so that's what we're wrestling with as we move forward. So that's why, generally speaking, staff says the recommendation is to approve these developments in relation to this, to try to mitigate that burden on existing taxpayers. So this is also when you compare it, this is Goddard, this is when you compare it to Sedgwick County as a whole. So the same thing is applying universally across Sedgwick County. That's why you're seeing, so it's not just Goddard that has additional duplexes being built or being proposed, but across Sedgwick County. Because of that relationship between the 30-year mortgage and the real wage, which is wages adjusted for inflation, of the individuals who are buying the homes. The cost of buying the house has become exponentially greater. And so we're trying to offset that by the introduction of duplexes as a transitional housing type. And the proposition is that the supply of single family helps taper that. And we saw that in 2007 and 2008 with the housing bubble. We saw that with cities across the U.S. that actually proposed more single family and more additional types of housing units were able to mitigate that bubble burst from speculation in 2007, 2008. So this is all the things that we're trying to grapple with as we move forward. So, that being said, there is small cost of public notice as well as the ordinance adopted by City Council. It was approved as a form The ordinance will not take effect until after land has been annexed into the city limits, so we have to make that clear. The land currently is not in the city limits, it's in the county. So the ordinance as it's drafted will take effect upon publication, and we simply will not send it to the newspaper until after the land is annexed, if the city council feels that they would like to improve the development moving forward. It is recommended by city staff, given economic prevailing sentiment and everything that's taken into account for modern planning practices and everything included, the one, waive the reading of the ordinance with a voice vote and then approve the rezone of the John Lefano Downland Land Case Zone 25-4 with a voice plus a roll call. If you guys have any questions for me, feel free to ask. There is a lot of literature as it pertains to this. We look at it consistently. We read it often and frequently. We do have Garver here. He's an engineer, agent for the applicant. We do have John Lefano, the developer, as well. So at this point, I will hand it over to Mr. Ken Lee as agent for the applicant.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. Lower that down, maybe you can hear together. We understand that there's the fatigue about two-family homes is real. It's throughout the county. There's a lot of folks who think that we may be doing too much, and so part of what we're doing when we look at doing a development like this where we have a split is trying to find that balance while you're still providing some single-family homes while also meeting the financial, necessities of making the project work where it works financially. And I'm just going to run through some stuff some notes I took before the meeting, and then as people talked here about thoughts on this. One of the big challenges that developers face in development is just moving the product, getting the homes taken up and the lots filled up. And duplexes are selling at 2 to 3 times the rate that single family homes are, and those are filling up and people are moving into them because it's what people can afford. So the financial realities of the time we're in kind of leads to that, where duplexes are just filling up. The city of Goddard has been pretty aggressive on their zone changes, and some of the smaller lots they're allowing, and that actually does help mitigate the situation some. But even so, duplexes are still a more financially viable solution. When you looked at that chart that John showed earlier, the return on the duplexes, there's only 50% more duplexes, but there's 3 times the revenue for the city. And the same thing applies for the developers when they're doing that. It just makes financial sense to do the duplexes. I do want to mention a comment was made about the Planning Commission and why they approved it despite there being public sentiment. And I don't know if you've heard the term golden factors, but when you're doing a zoning application, there's 7 golden factors that you have to look at. It's stuff that looks at public health, safety, and welfare, ability of the existing infrastructure to support it. Is it appropriate area? Is the area remain developed? And one of them is public opinion, and that is supposed to be an important factor. But when you look at the golden factor itself, it specifically says that although public opinion is important on an issue, it should not be the sole deciding factor on a zoning decision. So while people may be upset that the Planning Commission approved it, when you look at it 6 out of 7 factors, by their rules that they're supposed to follow by law, only 1 of the 7 was really a negative. And so it's true that they do listen to it. It is a factor. It can't be the only factor. The same applies tonight. I mean, obviously everybody's opinion here matters, and you need to listen to that when you make your decisions. But you really shouldn't be your only factor. That should not be the only reason why you turn it down. The talk about property values and those type of things, I have developers who do duplexes and single family, and many of them do duplexes and single family in the same subdivision. So the notion that duplexes stymie or hurt single family homes is just a misguided misconception, because the Rock Spring Edition, we did duplexes there in 2010, and we did 5 other phases after that of single family homes after that first duplex phase, and he never had problems selling out his all those phases they went along. They went slower, but over time he filled out the rest of that addition despite there being duplexes there. Rock Springs 4th and Cedar Pass, same developer did Rock Springs 4th, right across the street. He's got a single family development that he's doing right now. They're selling slower, but he still did it, and he did that because he knows that you can own a single family home next to a duplex and life doesn't end. Skyview at Block 49 and Skyview at Webb, same thing. Skyview started out as a duplex addition. They did a single family phase, and now there's a new phase called Skyview at Webb next door. So duplexes don't stop single family growth from occurring. They don't kill home values. Trails End was brought up. That's a mixed use development. So you hear people say, oh, they kill home values. They're stopping other things from happening. They don't. They each fill their own need. As far as the capacity for the city infrastructure, we checked that when we did our due diligence on the project, and we were assured that the city has growth plans for the water plant and the sewer treatment facility over time to accept the extra capacity of all this new development. So that is one of the things we've talked about, and city staff has assured us they do have a plan for that growth, where I know there's concerns, there will be growing pains of it, but it is a necessary part of the city's growth, and we've been assured that our project, the city has the capacity to handle our project. As mentioned, the tax revenue part, somebody said, well, it's going to strain city staff. Well, the beauty about getting millions of dollars of more tax revenue is you can afford to hire more staff, you can hire more police officers, you can actually reduce the stress on your city staff if you grow your staff responsibly as you bring in additional tax revenue. As far as yard maintenance, HOA will take care of the yards and open reserve areas. There was comments about build quality. I don't know if any of you went to John's properties in Bel Air, but I know folks were invited to go see them just so you can see the build quality. Just because one duplex is poorly built with thin walls doesn't mean they all are. I lived in a duplex when I moved back to Wichita, and I didn't hear my neighbors talking all the time. So I've lived in a duplex myself, and I don't remember not being able to eat dinner without listening to my neighbors' conversations. So just because there may be some bad ones doesn't ensure they're all bad. And then the notion of duplexes, the neighborhoods fall apart. Like I said, the one I did in 2010 is 15 years old now, and it's still thriving. There's no issues there. The notion that these neighborhoods are doomed to collapse in just a few years or in 10 years or something like that is just, again, it's a misconception, because I've seen it personally where our developers are successful doing that. And then finally, I'll just say that there was talk about duplexes their prices are falling, they can't sell them, they can't move them. I don't see that to be the case, because we work with the developer at Trails End as well, and we're getting ready to start the next phase of single family homes out there, because he feels like things are going well. He's selling out his property. So again, you hear a lot of different things. You've heard a lot of different things. The public opinion is important, and it should be a factor in your decision. But don't have it be the only factor in your decision when you're thinking about the growth of Goddard and what you can do. And for our developer, this here, he feels like this is the best way he can develop this property and be successful. With that, I'll let John speak for just a minute.
To be here tonight, just to reiterate a few, especially the question that came up about a duplex, you being able to hear the next person next door. Well, I personally lived, for 3 years in one of my duplexes in Bel Air back in 2018-21, and I don't think there's really a city code that has a standard deal, but it doesn't cost a lot more money to put fireboard and soundboard. You put an extra, because there's 3 walls on the duplex, so you put the fireboard soundboard in there, takes care of most of it. They also make a blow-in wall sticky insulation that also takes care of sound. So if somebody does that, you'll never hear your neighbor next door. You won't hear him talking. You're not going to hear nothing. So it probably is just somebody building cheap that don't do it. I do that on all mine. The same as putting brick on the front, making everything. And we also have an HOA that makes sure everything stays nice, that there's no, issues, because like where people are building just duplex here, where there was no HOA or anything, they could get by with some cheap stuff, but it's not going to be good for their reputation, and I always try to do things right to where, and And I've never, like and Bill ever come and finish one. You know, if there's a renter ready to move in or somebody ready to buy it. So, and value has not decreased at all. But that's, I just wanted to make sure.
Sure, I appreciate that.
Product is, you know, the same as, you know, I only buy the best boards, the best products I can get, grade A. You know, they do have grade B, C and stuff that you can buy cheaper, you know, but it's not gonna be near the product. Especially as, you know, somebody's saying that somebody's gonna get rich off build a duplex or something. I buy the good products, I guess. There's no margin really in a duplex or a single family per capita. It's just what the demand is right now and what sells. And I do try to target mainly all over 55 plus, you know, because they're all slabs and I'm doing it to where, you know, they're handicapped people can live there, you know, older people, and that's pretty much 60% of who rents are 55 and more people. So whether they're renting or buying, so. And a lot of people, it helps build a duplex over single family, because if you're where you sold your house, you're downsizing, or you're younger without a family, you know, yet if you buy a duplex, you got the one side, you rent the other side out, you're gonna have, you know, 70% of your payment made by your renter. So it's, you know, it actually is a huge deal for some people that need that help. You know, with single family, you can't get that, you know, drink. So it's a good to have a mixture of both. But, you know, right now, like where that is, with the development to the north, that did all the cheaper single family they're doing. And with this development, we still want to be about 30% duplex, you know, between the whole two developments. So I don't think that's too many duplexes.
We'll take any questions you might have.
Anybody have any questions at this point?
And you guys looked at my duplex. I do an excellent job. I don't try to do things cheap. I do them the right way.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Alrighty. Staff's recommendation is that you approve it, waive the reading of the ordinance, and approve the rezoning. At this point, you guys do have three options. You can, after, of course, deliberation, and if you do have any questions for myself, we do have Farm 43 City Engineer, Ryan Peck, City Attorney, Jason Lamar, Public Works Director, Craig, the City Administrator, or Ryan Track, of course, Deputy City Administrator. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. At this time, your options are as listed. Adopt such recommendation by effectuating the ordinance, which would be a simple majority, since Councilmember Collins is present. Of course, that's 5. You guys have 5, so 3 out of 5. Override the Commission's recommendations by 2/3 supermajority, which would be 4 out of 5. Or return such recommendations to the Commission with statements specifying the basis for the governing body's failure to approve or disapprove, which would be a 3 out of 5.
Okay, any questions?
No.
We'll start down the path here. I would entertain a motion to waive the reading of the ordinance. I haven't made the motion, I'm just entertaining the motion.
To waive it? Yeah, I make a motion to waive the reading of the ordinance. I second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That was a yes.
What was that?
Something
Is he with us?
She dropped out.
Where's that?
I'm back. It's a good old T-Mobile warrior up there.
And that,
Okay.
it's a point of order. So you got a motion, a second, you asked all those in favor. We only heard maybe 3
Well,
ayes.
that's what I'm trying to get.
Okay, and this is just to waive the read of the ordinance,
The
doesn't mean you're passing it.
Right. So, waive the reading.
Honorable, we made a motion to waive the reading of the ordinance. Are you a yay or nay?
I'm a yay, sir.
Okay. And I'll say yea as well to keep things moving. So, we waive the reading of the ordinance.
I make a motion to override the commission's recommendation by a 2/3 majority vote of the membership of the city council. Second.
Got a motion and second by Krista and Naomi. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. We've overridden the,
Zoning fails, thank you very much.
I just want to say something real quick. I really hope that everyone understands that we really need to work on the comprehensive plans so that we're all in agreement in terms of going forward. And John, it's a tough thing where this comes kind of because you're the one bringing this forward, but I think at this point it wouldn't have mattered whatever project with duplexes. This is kind of where the community is right now, and this pause is not going to stop the growth. And I hope that you give us a little grace in terms of the leeway here, that over the next 6 or 7 months we can get our comprehensive plan in place that is lined with the views of the citizenry, and then we'll continue to move forward. The growth is not going to stop, but I know you've been really understanding in the conversations we've had, but I just want to be sure that those of you that are clapping, I want to see your help, because we're not going to be able to do this on our own. This is a community issue, and this in my mind is kind of the last piece of things that we've worked on in terms of the CIP. I don't know if you've looked at the budget book. You can get signed copies available after the meeting by our CFO. This actually has 5-year projections in it. We've never done projections. This is a forward-looking document. It's a living document, and as the economics change, there'll be tweaks and changes in this document. But we've done water studies, we've done street studies, we've got data, and we're making decisions based on hard data, not guessing. So I hope you all realize that the staff that we have over here works really hard. They do a tremendous job, and we will continue to press forward to make Goddard the kind of place we want it to be. I've said this more than one time, but we can have nice things in this community. We can have nice things in Goddard. Whether it's a park, whether it's clean water, or the streets where streets are fixed and maintained and run properly. So I just want to elicit your support. The applause is really, I guess, you're acknowledging the fact that you're going to help. So I want to thank you all for that. With that,
Can I just also say one more thing?
Yeah, sure.
We received many emails over the last week, and I really appreciate those citizens who reached out respectfully to us. We will respond to you. Also, those who are concerned about our growing school district, I would like to let you know that 2/3 of our district live in the Wichita city limits. So for those of you who are very concerned about all the massive growth occurring in our Goddard School District, please look at West Wichita, see your Sedgwick County commissioners, go to your school board meetings, and speak to your school board. Because we have jurisdiction for the Goddard city limits in terms of what we can and can't approve in development, and we don't have any jurisdiction in West Wichita. So I just wanted to say that on record so that those of you who keep, those who are confused, which many of us have been, just some clarification, 2/3 of our district live in West Wichita.
that actually means that when they break out the number, just want to
speak in real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, Aubrey, go ahead, Jerome. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I apologize first of all, everybody, that I'm doing this remotely in my phone. The internet is lagging like 30 seconds behind, so I want to correct my vote for the opposition on that. I wanted to turn my vote to a no, so it's still majority rules. However, I want to make a couple of points here. You know, it comes to this development like this, as far as the infrastructure, ex-naying this, just, you know, this is just what my opinion is here, but ex-naying this whole project is killing about $5 million worth of revenue for our city each year, which goes towards the infrastructure. We're not going to stop growing, but I really appreciate Micah's presentation, Mr. Dugan, the other developers stepping in and talking. But, you know, I know there's a lot of stigma out on the internet, the social media. I've been reading quite a bit of comments going on the past 48 hours, and there's really a lot of misinformation out there. I'm sorry?
No, you're fine, Aubrey.
And so that's the whole deal. It's like, you know, we got to keep in mind, Goddard is a sought-after community. People love this community. I love it. I ended up here, you know, there's a big population here of transients. What I mean transients is that we have Koch Industries. We are in the aerospace capital of the United States. There's thousands of families that come here. They're not here on a permanent basis, but they're here for a year, 2-year contracts. That's how I ended up here. We ended up buying our property here, deciding to stay because we love it so much. But there are thousands of families right now in our area. They're looking for properties that come in to temporarily be in. So rentals is not a bad idea, you know, because it's a sought after thing. People don't come to town, you know, the groups I came in with, they're not here to buy property. They're here to do work on contract basis. And so they need nice housing. They need places, you know, that are affordable. You know, they're not going to spend $500,000 for a house just to try to sell it in 2 years. But it has its needs all the way around. But, you know, so I just, you know, I want to put on the record that's, you know, I know I voted yes a while ago, but I want to make sure that I want to change the record and my vote was no on that one.
We got that corrected, I believe, so we're
4-1.
We're good 4-1. Thanks, Aubrey. The comment I want to make too about the school district is I believe that our development, our growth represents about 15% over the overall growth that the school district is facing. There are many more developments in West Wichita in the Goddard School District than, I mean, we have an impact on that, but it's not the overall responsibility that's happening here. So with that, let's move on to item number 2.
Thank you all for showing up, and for those of you that sent emails.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am just up here briefly to introduce our next speaker. So, as you know, normally Kevin Cowan with Gilmore and Bell represents the bond council for the city. He had another obligation this evening, so I'm here to introduce Dominic Eck. He is also with Gilmore and Bell and will be presenting this next agenda item as well as a few others on the docket tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I might recommend about a 30-second break to let our folks vacate. That's about as common order as I've seen. I think we have some that may be coming in too.
All right. Thank you, Dominic, for being here this evening.
Yeah.
Being patient. Let's roll on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me tonight as a poor man's Kevin. A little shorter, less hair, laying under. So tonight we're here for first one, industrial revenue bond issuance for the Taco TJ 664 project. The company March 25 LLC has requested IRBs for a new restaurant facility that they hope to locate at the southeast intersection of 183rd and Kellam. In connection with that IRB, the company has requested both a property tax abatement for 10 years and also a sales tax exemption on purchases made to construct the facility. When you have a property tax abatement involved in an IRB, you have to have a couple of extra statutory steps than if it's sales tax only. So when there's a property tax abatement involved, you have to publish notice of a public hearing, you have to have a cost-benefit analysis performed, and you need to hold a public hearing prior to consideration of an approval for that property tax abatement. So that those actions have been taken for this project. The cost-benefit analysis has been prepared. The applicable notice was published and sent to the county and school district. And so tonight, that public hearing may be held and a resolution of intent considered to, again, we are very creative lawyers, and resolution of intent is a resolution that shows an intent to issue industrial revenue bonds. The bonds would actually be issued upon the completion or substantial completion of the project, and that's because a property tax abatement takes effect January 1, after which the bonds are issued. So if we were to issue the bonds this year with nothing constructed and the abatement were to go into place January 1 of 26, it would be meaningless. There would be no value to the first year. So you construct the project and then you'll come back and do the bond issuance documents at a later date. However, at the outset of the project, you need the sales tax exemption certificate in hand so that you can go make those purchases to construct that facility. A resolution of intent approval lets us apply for that project exemption certificate, supply it to the company, and they're able to go ahead and utilize that in construction. Just as a reminder, that has no effect on the operations of the facility once it's constructed, and its charging of sales tax is only on the purchases made to construct the facility that a sales tax exemption applies. So the financial implications are that 10 years of property tax abatement and not receiving any sales tax on the purchases for those construction materials. So tonight, the action recommended is to open the public hearing, receive any public comment, and then consider the approval of that resolution of intent. So happy to answer any other questions you may have.
I've really been through the form. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing. There's a motion, maybe a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is now open as it relates to the property tax abatement and the sales tax for construction. Anybody want to come up and speak just for fun? You're all tired of talking, you want to go home? Anybody else with the score of the ball game is? No one else comment? If not, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Just a second, that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Next on the, we need a motion. I'll make the motion to approve the IRB intent resolution.
Second.
I made the motion, Brent second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, 5-0. On to the next item. Item 3. Quarterly financial report. CFO. Clerk Carroll.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. We are ready for our third quarter financial report, and this should only take about 45 minutes.
I was hoping you could get it done in an hour. I don't want that detail.
Honestly, everything's looking really good, so this should go pretty quickly. So on our agenda this evening, for our third quarter financial report, everything's pretty much standard as we've done in the past. I did add in a new item this time in your report, and you will see a fund balance compliance review. This is just to show where we stand for our fund balance policy of keeping 25% of operating expenses in the fund. So you'll see that towards the end of the report. So I thought that would be cool to put that in there since we highlighted that so much during our budget processes. The purpose of the report is to provide the overview of the city's financial position and performance through the third quarter, highlight fund-specific activities and balances, in compliance with the budget authority, and discuss any significant trends or variances. Again, we're trying to really highlight transparency. I'm really trying to keep these reports pretty much the same unless I just add something in so everybody can continuously get more familiar with the processes of our city finances. Also, these have been posted on the city website under the finance and the transparency sections, so everything's up to date, so everybody can go there as many times as they'd like to. General fund overview is going to be our first section. So we will talk about our general fund revenues, the top 5 revenue sources, general fund expenditures, top 5 expenditure categories, budget authority year-to-date, and year-to-year comparison. So as you've seen in the past, the first three columns are our first quarter, second quarter, third quarter totals for our general fund revenue. The blue columns are our 2025 year to date as of 9/30, and then I like to compare it next to our 2024 dollars and amounts as of the same period of time. So I want to say that everything is really, if we look at our pink column on the very end, year-over-year change in each one of these categories looks really, really good. I think last quarter, one of the categories we were concerned about was building permits and fees, and it's actually caught back up this quarter, which is a good thing, and it's actually exceeding last year's percentage by 15% at this time. So alcohol taxes is up 101% from last year. Comp use taxes is 18%. Franchise is up 13%. Property taxes is up 35%. So all of these really look pretty close to what we've expected. One thing you might notice is our interest income is down. That, as I've mentioned in prior reports, that is due to the reallocation of interest from prior years. Pool income was also down a little bit this year. So, we were expecting to bring in about $47,000 and we only brought in $44,000. So with a cooler, rainier summer, I think that's truly to be expected. Our top 5 revenue sources for third quarter are building permits, sales tax, property taxes, franchise taxes, and common use tax. Like I mentioned last time, building permits and fee income was not on this list, but it made it back to where we expected it to be. General fund expenditures, everything is looking really good here. If we look at our total expenditures down here at the bottom, 2025, we are sitting at 50.7%. So I wouldn't want to see that over 75%. So, at this point in time, we are underperforming what we expected to spend. If you want more detail, some of the expense categories are over 75%, but there's others that are under. And a lot of those, let's take mayor and council, for instance, you guys are setting at 88%. That's due to because a good portion of your expenses came in the first and second quarters of the year. So that's to be expected. So if you have any questions on that, just let me know. But also, we have made our first 3-quarter transfers as well. Top 5 expenditure categories is code enforcement, planning and zoning, our pool, court and police, and administration. Moving along to our special revenue and enterprise funds. Again, these are funds that are supported by some sort of property tax or special revenue that goes into each one of those. And so, and our enterprise funds, water, utility, sewer utility, and stormwater. Looking at our revenues in each one of these categories, everything's looking really good. You might notice that debt service is down 51.68% over prior year. This is just due to the way that I allocate bond proceeds as they've been done in the past. So sometimes they were put into here, I'm putting them in different places. So that kind of skews our data a little bit. But as we get more years ahead, that will flush out. So tourism and promotion is down as to be expected by 14%. That's due to the transient guest tax not coming to us anymore, and it's going towards the STAR bond. So these are things that we've expected. If we move on into the enterprise funds for the water utility and the sewer utility, you will see that our tap fees are down just a bit. Not enough to be concerned. We may be able to even catch back up in fourth quarter. So overall, again, I don't see any reasons for alarms. Expenditures. I do want to remind you that top section there these are expenditures before transfers. They are pulled out and put down here in the bottom section. But everything is really looking pretty good. We are setting, pretty much below 75% in every single category, which is good. We are let's see here, libraries at 95%, but just as a reminder, that's a pass-through, so we give them what we get, and then we'll stop when we get to our budget authority. But again, if we look at our year-over-year change, everything's up, looks really good. You can tell that our water utility is looking healthier, and same, our sewer is also up. I do want to mention in the transfers, that 88% is different than what you saw on the last page that said 75% for transfers. I did go ahead and make the complete transfers from the water utility, sewer utility into debt service because they had debt service payments due, and I wanted them to line up together. So I went ahead and made those transfers. Looking at our enterprise fund performance, this is where we like to look at our ratios and just kind of see how healthy we are. You will see we're still in the red at the bottom here, and our net income is a percentage of operating revenue. I just want to mention right out of the gate that this is expected. As we looked at our budget processes, we had planned to spend these things. And if we look at our fund balance in our later pages, we're sitting at 94% approximately of both funds, even if we're eating up some of that fund balance. But just to talk real quickly, we like to look at our revenues, subtract out our operating expenses, see what's left for our operating ratio, and we'd like to see that number to be under 80%. So when I see 57% and 66% in both of those utility funds, to me it means that our rates are right in alignment or really good to accommodate the operating expenses. It's when we start doing capital projects and transfers out that we end up with a negative net income, which therefore gives us a negative net income as a percentage of operating revenue. Ideally, we would like that to turn back around and be a positive 5 or 6%. And I believe the way that we budgeted for next year going forward, that number will start getting better because we're not going to go negative with our planning. So, let's move on to capital improvement and reserve funds. So this is our balance. This is our capital improvement fund and project fund balance. So we kind of lump all of those together. First quarter we're sitting at 22 million. Third quarter we're still sitting at 22 million. So it's kind of gone up and down. There's been a lot of expenditures happening in our capital projects, especially with our streets, our developments. People are getting work done, so those numbers are just, kind of staying the same. This project here shows us our allocation of what we have as a city available to us to spend for capital improvements. And out of that 22 million, we're setting it, I can't see it, 2.4 million or about 11%. So the number's kind of growing a little bit. We are growing that number just a bit with the interest earnings that we're having. Our capital improvement fund gets an allocation based on its fund balance. So it's really growing a little bit more just due to the interest that we have going in there. Reserve fund balances, this is where it has our equipment reserve, our sewer utility reserves, and our water reserves there. Everything's really pretty constant. These funds also receive interest income and equity fee revenue. Equipment doesn't, but sewer and water does receive that equity fee revenue that we get in. So that kind of helps stabilize some of the costs that we're seeing in those funds. So I want to remind you that we do receive that revenue source into those areas. Equipment reserve, this didn't change. This one didn't change, from the prior quarter. So it's kind of boring. So, if you have any questions on that one, let me know. Debt summary, our summary of debt as of 9/30. So you can see that we are sitting with a total debt of about $68,698,000. Of that total, 67% is for developer projects, 18% is for city projects, and 15% is for our special assessments. Now, one should be aware, next quarter is going to look a lot different since we had our $40 million bond issue for all of our projects. So that's significantly going to change next time around. Treasury update. You should know that we had $4 million of the CDs maturing in August. So we put that out for bid, and People's Bank and Trust offered us a really nice rate of 4%.